Bazi Kanani is with us, White House correspondent for ABC News. Good morning, Bazi.
Good morning.
What's going on? When's this meeting going to take place today?
Well, French President Hollande and President Obama will meet early this morning. We don't have an exact start time of their meeting. We do know about 11:30 Eastern. They will hold a press conference after they've had a chance to sit and discuss these issues about how to fight ISIS. Officials say the two leaders are going to discuss further expanding intelligence sharing as they battle ISIS. They may discuss giving some more weapons to our partners on the ground there in Syria, such as Kurdish fighters. And we're told that the president wants to talk with President Hollande about how to take advantage of this momentum, this new sense of urgency in the fight against ISIS.
What about Russia? We now have the news that Turkey shot down their plane and all the other hornet's nest with all these other competing factions. Is that going to be part of the conversation?
I imagine that in their private conversations today, that will actually become a very important part of the conversation. The only thing we've heard from U.S. officials here in Washington so far about that is they say that they can confirm that the U.S. Forces were not involved at all in that incident between Turkey and Russia. So they have referred us for further questions back to those governments on that issue. However, it does demonstrate here the importance of getting Russia to cooperate with the West in the fight against ISIS, particularly in Syria, where Russia's airstrikes have not been coordinated with U.S. airstrikes. And that's a major outstanding question. The administration continues to repeat that you cannot defeat ISIS unless you have a political solution for Syria, because until you end the civil war there, until you restore order, you can't force ISIS out of the territory there completely. And the administration says, it needs to have Russia's cooperation in order to get that political solution in Syria. And the U.S. says it remains firm that Syrian President Assad cannot be part of that solution. And, of course, Russia continues to support President Assad.
It's a great point. You have 17 different factions fighting, and the Western world, if you will, isn't in agreement on the best way to go forward. So Russia's bombing to keep Assad in, and America's doing everything to keep him out. So these allies aren't even in agreement on the best strategy going forward.
Yes, President Hollande is on this diplomatic tour. So later this week, he also meets with the leaders of Germany, Italy, and Russian President Vladimir Putin. And he certainly hopes that he can get Putin to agree to come to the table and to find ways to cooperate on Western strategy to fight ISIS in Syria.
Why would they have to wait to have this conversation in person? Why couldn't they have done this on the phone or through some type of Skype?
We certainly the top leaders in the U.S. and in France have already been in discussions. President Obama has already spoken on the phone with President Hollande after the attacks in Paris. So these conversations will not be brand new today. But the White House says it is important. This show of unity, this show of solidarity is important. And they say, it's an important message for France and also for people in the U.S. to see the U.S., the most powerful country in the world, and the country that, by the way, is doing the most right now in the fight against ISIS, to show its support of France right now.
Let me ask you quickly, while we still have you, Bazi Kanani, White House correspondent for ABC News. The refugees, France is still planning on taking their 30,000 refugees. President Obama has still said we're committed to taking 10,000 refugees. How much is going to be talked about, and how much are you expecting it to come up in this news conference?
Officials haven't told us that will be a particular topic of discussion between the two leaders, but I would expect that to come up in the news conference. I would expect that that's something reporters would ask about, because that is such an important topic right now and such a hot debate in the U.S. And, the president is going to want to use France as an example and say, look, if this country that's just been attacked can still be committed to, its principles of accepting Syrian immigrants in and showing compassion in that way, then our country can certainly do the same.
Bazi Kanani, ABC News correspondent, live at the White House. Thanks for checking in. Happy Thanksgiving.
To you, too.
725, Big 550, KTRS. Thanksgiving right around the corner. You can be